In this lesson, I will walk you through the process of modeling the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge. You can apply this simple modeling technique to other similar landmarks or monuments as well. These are some reference images that I've gathered to help me understand the landmark better. I'll be using the front view because I find that easier to work with. In Blender, hit numpad 1 to be in front view, and I will drag in the front view reference image, M to add it to a collection, name it reference. I raise it up just slightly above the origin line. For some of you who would like to see your reference image even when you orbit into the perspective view, how you enable that is you click on this image icon, click on show in perspective. So you can either toggle this or disable it depending on your preference. So this allows me to see when I orbit into perspective view. Some people may find this distracting. I love to reduce the opacity, but I must have it checked first. We can use cube to build this, but if we do this, we'll have more vertices to work with. So Shift A to add a plane. Don't click anything yet. Come over to this interface, and if by chance you can't find this interface, hit F9. Change align to view. S to scale down. Ctrl A to apply scale. Tap to enter into edit mode. Enable X-ray mode. A to select all the vertices. And move everything to block out the shape. Mind you, I am moving the mesh in edit mode and not in object mode. This is because I want its pivot point to remain at the world origin, because we'll be applying mirror modifier to it later. Adjust the mesh in the edit mode to block out the model by moving and scaling and rotating. I can select these two vertices and position them to block out the reference image a bit more. From this other reference image, this part extends further down. For now, we won't go down to that, but we will come back to that later. Select these two vertices and extrude up. Scale down a bit and adjust. Select the top vertices and extrude. S to scale. S to scale. You can scale these vertices as well. Align these vertices better. Align this place to make it more straightened as well. E to extrude again. While extruding this, I'm also paying attention to the space that will be required to extrude this other slab. Keep adjusting them to fit. E to extrude again. Keep adjusting them to fit. E to extrude again. Again, keep adjusting them to fit. Repeat this drill of extruding and adjusting. Extrude this part and take it up a bit. Then select this right vertex and move it up to follow the shape of the reference image. You know what? After a second thought, this edge here is not needed. Hit X, dissolve edges. We will go to this slab that connects both. We will pay attention to the front view of this and not the under that is showing simply because of the camera angle. That means a loop can be here and I can bring it further down like this. What that means is that I need to add another loop cut here, like right here above where this slab shoots out. I can still take this up a bit more. Tap to return to object mode and you can see its origin is still at the world origin. We can select and move this reference image back a bit more. Numpad 1. With the reference image, you can see the leg kind of push back and outward. Tap to enter into edit mode. Select these bottom vertices and move back a bit. Select and extrude. Scale up a bit. Adjust to fit. And this is what we have. A to have all the vertices selected. E to extrude to something like this. This is what we have now. I am wondering if I should still give it more depth. Let's check the other reference image. Judging from this, the depth is not that deep. So I think this is okay. Let me just give it a little more. Non-powered one. We will extrude the slabs right now. That means we need to add additional loop across. Ctrl R and click and push it up a bit like so. Add the second somewhere here. And this is what we have. Be in the face mode, select this face. Non-powered one, E to extrude and push it out. Hit SX0. Zoom in and raise it up a bit to have it straightened. We need to add the mirror modifier to see our results before continuing with the rest. Enable clipping so that we can join effectively wherever the mirror meets. I usually like to come here, click on random. This is not the actual color at all, but it's just for a better preview. This is just for preview's sake. At this point, let us also add some modifier to see how the results that we have so far. Add a bevel modifier and this happens. Reduce the amount to 0.003 and this is what we get. You can increase the segment slightly a bit to 2. Shade smooth. For the old blender, you need to check auto smooth. Then come to data property to give it normal of 180. But for Blender 4.2, this operation is added as a modifier now. We can go to modifier tab, normals, smooth by edges. Set its angles to 180. We can see some pinching happening in the middle. In edit mode, we can disable the mirror modifier for now. Face mode, delete this face. Enable the mirror. Add a loop for this and another and move it like this. Orbit and be in face mode to see this face. Back to the front view. Extrude out. As a clip, there is pinching happening. We can also solve this by deleting the extra face at the mouth. Disable the mirror modifier for now. Orbit to see the mouth much better. X to delete. Choose faces. Ctrl R and click and push it up a bit like so. Add the second somewhere here. Choose face mode, select this face, numpad 1, E to extrude by dragging out, click to establish it, again SX0, push till they meet and straighten it up on the Z axis the more. Delete this face. Ctrl R to add loops for the final slab. Choose face mode, select this face, numpad 1, E to extrude by dragging out, click to establish it, hit SX0. Delete this face. Enable the mirror modifier. And remember, clipping is enabled. Please go ahead and save your work. We will go ahead to add these ropes just like we have here. With the bridge still selected, hit M to place it into a new collection. Name it bridge. You can go ahead to create a backup folder. This is something I like to do. Rename it to pillars. Ctrl S to save your file now. We should have done this a long time. I want to start creating the ropes, but this view doesn't really do justice to that. And I think this side view, relatively side view, gives me a better sense of what I'm trying to create in the next, all these ropes. As such, it will also make more sense for me to also have this and a very good way I like to do this to like have an additional reference image in my project is to come here. For instance, now in this here, now once I have my mouse hovered in between these two here, I right click. Once I right click, it gives me this option. Now I want to add, and I want it to go horizontally, so I choose horizontal, so it duplicates this interface here. So I can come here, choose this, I want it in the middle here, choose this middle one, select this and choose image editor. So once I have this image editor, it's just a matter of coming here now, selecting this, select this side and drop. So I have this in here now, so I can only zoom in and zoom out a bit to see my, so it gives me an extra information of what I'm modeling. This gives me the front view, while this will just be there to really give me a visual aid of what I'm about to create. It's time for us to start adding the ropes, but before then, it makes more sense for us to add like a mock-up of the road that we run through, so that once we start adding the ropes, we have a visual reference of where the rope will be attached from here down to here. So that being the case, back to numpad 1, shift A, mesh plane. Now once I'm here, I think this is good enough here. So it's added here now, so you can use the scale tool, scale it on the Y axis this way. Then scale this down, scale down on X axis. Yeah, I think this is good enough. I think the Y value is too much, but just to give us a visual guide so that we can start attaching the rope to it. Yeah, something like this. Shift A to be in front view. There is a type of curve I want to use as the building block for this. By default, it's not enabled. I can't find it. I can't find the option here. So we need to go to Edit, Preference, Add-ons. For older version Blender users, you get this in the add-on. You can come here and type extra curve. You will see it pop out, extra curve object. Just enable it by checking it. Blender has moved it away from here. Brings this out instead in 4.2. What I need to now do is come to System, because it needs to download it from Blender site first. I need to allow it access first. Now when we come back, click on Install. Nothing happens. We need to go to Get Extension, search Extra. You will see extra curve object. Click on Install. My network misbehaved a bit, but it will download and install once you click on it. I installed for others as well. Loop tools. This is one that will come in handy later. Go ahead and close this. Now Shift A. You see the list of many other options. Choose point. Hit tab to be in edit mode if you are not there already. E to extrude and add additional points. Drag out like this and hit Z to do it in the Z axis. Come to the data property by clicking on this icon. Now the good thing about using this curve is that it gives flexibility in controlling the thickness of the pole. If you use cylinder, which I did once, changing the thickness after positioning it is not as straightforward as this. You can also increase the radius to make it much smoother. You may need to do this if you are having a close-up of the bridge and the rope. If not, 4 or 5 is good enough. Select the two vertices and move it to this point where the rope is attached. Then this thickness is too big. I need to reduce it a bit more. I am holding Shift to slide the value down to get 0.031. While still in front view, select the bottom point and move it to this side. Number 3, drag it out on the y-axis like this. This is what we have. Number 7, drag this back on the x-axis. You can drag this down a bit more. I think this is still looking too thick. Holding Shift as I slide it down a bit more, I get 0.018 meters. Mind you, the pivot point of this curve is still at the world origin. That will later come in handy. I have this point curve selected. I Shift D to duplicate it and hit Escape immediately after. Tap to Edit mode. Select this point. As you can see, we need to raise it up a bit. Raise it up a bit. Number 3, select the bottom part and drag out like this. Tap to be in object mode. Select and duplicate the last point we just worked on. Hit Escape afterward. From the reference image, this third rope needs to be above near where the second slab is. Select this top point and move it up a bit. Number 3, select the bottom point and drag out. The mounts are not pushed in. Object mode. Hold shift, select all the 3 points. Hit tab to enter into the edit mode. Marquee, select these 3 points and move them so they enter into the pillar a bit more. Tab out of edit mode, select the top rope and duplicate it and hit escape afterward. Numpad 1, drag the top point upward. Numpad 3, select the bottom point and drag out. We have like 7 of these pulls, but I will model just 5 or 6. Have the last pull selected, Shift D, then escape. Numpad 1, select the top point and drag it up. Numpad 3, select the bottom point and drag it out. Come back to this and drag out a bit more. Tab into object mode, select the last pull and duplicate, escape. Numpad 1, select the top point and drag it up further. Numpad 3, select the bottom point and drag up outward. It is still looking thick to me. Back to the data property, give it 0.01. Give the rest 0.01 as the bevel depth. Select all the pulls and Ctrl J to join them as one layer. Let's add a mirror modifier. It is symmetrical aligned because we have the pivot point at the pulls of the world origin. In the reference image, there are these knots here. Numpad 3, Shift A, tab into edit mode, and scale down and move it downward here. Ctrl R and add horizontal loop across this. While that loop is still selected, hit S to scale it down. Select the top and bottom faces. Use the scale tool and scale up the x-axis alone. Select just the top face, extrude out, select the bottom parts and extrude outward too. Select the top and bottom faces together and scale down on y-axis. Add subdivision surface. The scaling was too much, so bring it out a bit more. Be in vertex mode and X-ray enabled. Select this bottom part and delete. Select vertices. Add a mirror modifier. Choose X-axis. Raise the mirror to be above the subdivision surface. Select this top face. Scale inward on X-axis so it becomes more like a square. I to insert inward. That is too much. S to scale it out a bit more. I to insert. This is what I have now. While in the object mode, right click to shade smooth. Rename it ring. Let's scale it down. Oh, its origin is still at the world origin. We need to change that. Disable the X-axis. We only want it on Z. Apply the mirror modifier. While in object mode, right click, set origin, bounding origin to center of mass. S to scale down. Tab to edit mode, select this top face. E to extrude and push up. I to insert and push it in slightly. With the face still selected, S to scale down further. E to extrude and push downward. Scale down a bit. Push it down just a little further. Tab to object mode, number 3, R to rotate, grab and position. Let's disable the mirror for now. Number 3, position it better. Number 1 to be in front view. Move it on the X-axis to position it better. Number 7, zoom in and position it better. Control number 3. I feel the object needs to be rotated from the mouth. To achieve that, tab into edit mode. This face in the middle mouth is selected already. If not, you may need to have it selected. Shift S, cursor to selected. Tab back to object mode. Right click, set origin to 3D cursor. The 3D cursor snaps to the mouth now. Number 7, rotate and position it properly Try and see from the other views. You can also switch to bottom view and ensure that it is properly positioned. Alt D, escape, move it on the y-axis, have it positioned properly. Alt D and move it to the third pole, rotate it a bit. Alt D, escape, move it rotate it a bit to fit. Alt D again and position it to the next pole. Alt D again and position it to the next pole. Rotate it to fit. Back to the reference image. I think the mount is a bit much longer and I probably need to scale them down. Have the source object selected. Tab into edit mode, A to select everything and scale down a bit more. Select the mount path and ensure X-ray is on. And drag it out like this. Now part 7. Back to edit mode, A to have everything selected and drag them to position much better. Select the mouth Select all the rings by holding Shift as you click on the rest. M to place them in collection. Name rings. Right click on it in the outliner, choose duplicate collection. I usually like to have backup of my objects as I work. I can add BUP to the name and throw it inside my BUP folder. Come back to this and select everything and hit Ctrl J to join them, so it will be easier to add a mirror modifier. Shift S, cursor to word origin, the cursor returns. Shift A, empty, plain axis or any other empty works. S to scale it down, Ctrl A to apply the scale, rename it cloner. Place the ring and the other cloner inside the bridge collection. Back to the pose. The way I mirror this is that I use the axis of the object itself. Its axis comes from its origin. Its origin was left by default in the word origin when we were creating this before. But there is the object option, which it references another object to perform the mirror operation. So I can select the dropper tool and click on the cloner empty. No significant difference because the cloner is seated directly at the word origin. This will become important soon. Just bear with me. Back to the ring, right click, set origin to center of volume or mass. Its origin doesn't need to be far away at word origin anymore to perform mirroring. We add the mirror modifier. We get this because it is using the axis of the object origin. When we come here and select the picker and click on the cloner empty, things are aligned because they are both referencing the cloner for their mirroring. Have the mirror modifier selected and Shift D to duplicate it. For this duplicate, set its axis to Y. Have the pose selected and name it ropes. Duplicate its mirror modifier, set its axis to Y. This is what we have. However, if you look closely, the other poles are shooting out. To correct this, we can come back to the empty cloner and move it backward. Both the rope and the ring correspond because they are both referencing the empty cloner. I can go ahead and place this into any bridge asset I find online, and it will still give the Ikoyi bridge vibe because we have captured the iconic structure of it. So you can go ahead to look for any bridge and place it and place properly, and that will be covering both in our next class.